Lisinopril is used to treat hypertension, or more commonly known as high blood pressure. Untreated, hypertension can have some serious consequences, such as heart attacks, strokes, or kidney failure. First, let's understand what blood pressure really means. Our heart is responsible for pumping blood throughout our body. Blood is delivered to our body parts through the arteries and is brought back to the heart through our veins. Each time the heart contracts, a certain amount of blood is pumped from the heart through our arteries into our various body parts, organs, and tissues. The amount of blood pumped per contraction of the heart is known as the cardiac output. Blood pressure refers to the mean arterial pressure, or MAP, meaning the blood pressure in our arteries. MAP is calculated by multiplying cardiac output, or the amount of blood pumped per contraction of the heart, by the total peripheral resistance, or TPR, which refers to the resistance of the blood vessels in the artery. Our blood pressure has two numbers, systolic blood pressure and diastolic blood pressure. When we see blood pressure measurements, we see systolic blood pressure on the top and diastolic blood pressure on the bottom. Systolic blood pressure refers to the pressure of the arteries when the heart is pumping blood, otherwise known as when the heart is contracting. On the other hand, diastolic blood pressure refers to the pressure of the arteries when the heart is refilling with blood, otherwise known as when the heart is relaxing. According to the American Heart Association, normal blood pressure is generally a systolic blood pressure of less than 120 and a diastolic blood pressure of less than 80. Once blood pressure gets above 130 for systolic blood pressure and above 80 for diastolic blood pressure, that's when we start to enter the territory of hypertension, specifically hypertension stage 1. As blood pressure continues to increase, above 140 for systolic blood pressure and above 90 for diastolic blood pressure, that's when we enter hypertension stage 2. One of the main potential culprits of hypertension derives from what is known as the renin-angiotensin system, or RAS for short. RAS is a hormone system that regulates our blood pressure and our fluid and electrolyte balance. How RAS works is when there's a decrease in blood pressure in your arteries, and thus blood flow to your kidneys is reduced, the kidney will secrete a molecule known as renin into your blood circulation. The renin that is now in your bloodstream activates the renin-angiotensin system. How it does this is that it'll take a protein produced by your liver called angiotensinogen, converting the angiotensinogen into a molecule called angiotensin 1. Then, an enzyme called angiotensin converting enzyme, or ACE for short, which is found primarily on the surface of your lungs, will take the angiotensin 1 and convert it into a molecule called angiotensin 2. The job of angiotensin 2 is literally to increase blood pressure. Angiotensin 2 increases blood pressure by two main mechanisms. First, angiotensin 2 is a potent vasoconstrictive peptide, meaning that it causes blood vessels to narrow. How it works is that angiotensin 2 will bind to cell receptors on your muscle and tissue cells, then initiating the vasoconstriction process. Again, vasoconstriction is when the blood vessels are narrowed. As the blood vessels narrow, this increases the resistance of the blood vessels from which the angiotensin is present, thus increasing the blood pressure in the blood vessel. The second mechanism of which angiotensin II increases blood pressure is by stimulating the secretion of a hormone called aldosterone from the kidney. As the kidney secretes the aldosterone, this then causes our blood vessels, or causes the kidney tubules to increase the reabsorption of sodium, causing the sodium to enter the bloodstream. As sodium enters the bloodstream, this then also causes water to follow the sodium and enter the bloodstream. This increases the overall volume of fluid in the bloodstream, thus increasing the pressure of the blood vessels and thus increasing blood pressure. Thus, for those suffering from high blood pressure or hypertension, one potential consequence is an RAS that is abnormally active. An abnormally active RAS will then result in the excess angiotensin II in your bloodstream, which then causes the different properties of angiotensin II to carry out its job and increase our blood pressure via vasoconstriction or the secretion of aldosterone, thus causing an increase in blood pressure and thus causing potentially hypertension.